It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Hanah Weill. We're here in your beautiful apartment in Yerushalayim. And Hanah, you're 99 years old. And you were born in Germany, in Frankfurt.
Germany, Frankfurt.
And what do you remember about Frankfurt?
Everything. I remember everything.
Do you remember going to shul, to school?
My parents were alive. They were with us. But it was terrible. Terrible. My mother died very young. She was only 47.
And Hanah, did you come from a religious family?
My father married again.
And you were Orthodox religious?
This was my husband over there.
And you have also a picture of your husband. It's so beautiful that you wear. Beautiful. And Hanah, what do you remember about growing up in Frankfurt? What do you remember?
From Frankfurt?
From Frankfurt.
Everything.
Do you remember your home?
Street names, everything.
What street were you in?
I lived in Ullandstraße. 44. And my father lived in Wiesbaden. My mother too, they both come from Wiesbaden. You know where Wiesbaden is? The Kaiser city.
And were they religious? Were they Orthodox? Were they religious? Did your father wear a kippah?
My father wore a hat.
But he was religious?
Orthodox man.
Orthodox, wow.
But Orthodox, he was in business. He had his own business, my father. And we were still at home. I was only 14 years old when my mother died.
And did you go to a Jewish school? The school that you went to, was it a Jewish one?
I was in school still.
But was it Jewish, a Jewish school or a public?
Yeah, Samson Raphael Hirsch School. Samson Raphael Hirsch.
Samson Raphael Hirsch?
No, the other one was not religious. Ours was very religious. Samson Raphael Hirsch was very Orthodox. We had separate everything. There was a media for boys and girls. And we were in the girls' school, and the boys' school was not allowed to come to us. But my sister was already friendly with her husband, whom she married after. She was also going out already with him. It was no secret. And they got married. And my father was concerned that I would have difficulties to get married because I was still at home. He was worried about it. But I had a lot of boyfriends. The other way around. I had a lot of boyfriends, and it wasn't my father. He was very concerned. With the boyfriends, he always said, you can't do anything with. You should have a husband. So I said, Papa, I'll have a husband when it's the right one, not before. I met my husband at the Shoah. At Shoah in Frankfurt. Shoah. I was there and he was there. And he said at the end of the shiur, do you have time to go out for a coffee? I said, any time. I liked him right away.
And how old were you when you met him?
I think 18. 18. And I went out with him. I said, that's it, to my father. I think we can get married. My father said, you don't know him. I said, I will get to know him when I'm married. Wasn't very smart, because you don't get to know your husband when you're married. I had some problems in the beginning when I got married. It wasn't so easy for me. It was easy, but it was also difficult. I had problems. Why don't you sit down?
No, it's good. It's and do you remember the shul, the synagogue?
School.
The synagogue, the Beit Knesset, the shul.
Some sort of Weill school I went to. Some sort of Weill.
And which synagogue did you belong? Which synagogue? Beit Knesset. Which shul did you go to? The synagogue.
Boyfriends. I didn't belong to anything.
But do you remember going on the Chagim?
I think I belonged to what is it? Not Tachadund, but Tachadund of 4 years was my husband. My husband comes from Cologne, not too far away, but Kristallnacht, my father had already remarried because my mother had already died, and he married a lovely, lovely girl who looked after us, beautiful. She took all of us in her house, and she came to stay with my father. Of course, they got married. And my mother, my second mother, also died early, but not as early as my first mother. We called her Tikva, my first mother. She was called Selma, so that was Tikva in Hebrew. So that's what we called her. She was Tikva, and my own mother was Selma Ben Yehuda. Selma Ben Yehuda Ackerman from Wiesbaden. My father and my mother both came from Wiesbaden. You know Wiesbaden.
Yeah. And can I ask, what do you remember about Kristallnacht?
About what?
Kristallnacht. What do you remember?
We had good times and bad times. The good times, sit down. So the good times were when my father married again. He married again, and she was lovely to us. My second mother was an angel to all of us. She took us all in, my grandparents, my sister. We were all living with her in good relationship until what is it called, the night?
Kristallnacht. The night of shattered glass of in November 38.
we still lived in Frankfurt during the selben night. What was it called, the night?
Kristallnacht.
Kristallnacht. We all stayed with my second mother. She looked after all of us, my grandparents, us children. She was a wonderful woman, wonderful. When we met her, we told my father she should marry her. It would be good for us. And he said yes, he's fallen already in love with her. Mm. It was funny. He came one morning and he said, "I'm come only to see your mother in bed. I only want to see what she looks like in bed." And she looks the same, so beautiful. And he said, when he came outside of the bedroom, he said, "She's as beautiful as you children."
It's
My father married then again. But it was difficult times in Germany. I don't know whether you know anything about Kristallnacht. She took us all in her place without fear. Just she wanted to tell us that she's going to be our mother and she will love us. And we loved her right away.
And can I ask?
There are two pictures with my mother.
So this is a picture of your mother?
This is my original mother, Tikva Shady Meyer.
She was very beautiful.
She
very
was,
beautiful lady. Sure.
But she was very sick. She died very young.
And this is your
and this is Tikva, my second mother, who married my father. She was great to all of us. We called her Tikva. Her name was Selma. Selma. S-E-L-M-A. And this was Shane, my biological mother. Shane. But Jakob. But Yehuda Ackerman.
And can I ask, what do you remember when the Nazis came to Frankfurt? Do you remember in the streets? Do you remember the Germans?
I was small, but I have a good memory for old things. And I remember everything what happened, how sick she was. And I don't like to talk about. She was very sick, but very good woman. And then my father married again. She was also just as good. We called her Tikva because Selma is actually hope. So we called her Tikva. And my own mother was called Selma Tikva Ben Yehuda Ackerman. I came out from Germany, Wiesbaden.
And can I ask, what do you remember about the Nazis? What do you remember with the Nazis when they were in Frankfurt?
What I remember from what?
From the Nazis, the Nazim, the Germans.
We were not in the camp.
I know, but what do you remember when the Hitler came to power?
We were terribly scared. The cell night, what did you call it?
Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht.
Kristallnacht. She kept us going. We were so scared. We all wanted to kill ourselves.
Oui.
We children, the 2 children. She was fantastic. She took us all in her arms and she said, I will be here with you. She was fantastic. That's why my father married her then, because he knew she would look after us.
But did you know what was happening? Did you know that they were burning the shuls and they were destroying the homes?
My father married her. He came one night to see her, what she looked like in bed. And he fell in love.
Yeah.
He said, this woman is good for me and for you.
And can I ask, with the Kristallnacht, what do you remember? With the Kristallnacht, what do you remember?
I remembered everything after I married her, how close she was to all of us. And she said, you have nothing to worry, because I will be there for you.
But do you remember what happened in November?
I married her.
I know, but when you were with her and when
my grandparents, everybody died. Some of the family members were all killed. Those that didn't die were killed.
And who killed?
All my aunts, uncles, grandmother, they were all killed.
Where were they living? In Germany?
Jetschen, they were Ackermann.
And where were they living?
In Bingen am Rhein. Bingen, B-I-N-G-E-N, Bingen am Rhein, where the Sings of Lorelei, where the Sings of Lorelei song.
And they were all killed?
Yes, my grandparents. Mother, father of my mother, from Vollmerz, that is by Schlüchtern. I know the place very well. I've been there already. There were only 9 Jewish families. And they lived there too. Small little house. If I could paint, I could draw it. Like a chicken house where I lived. There were 20 Jewish families. 20 Jewish families in Schlüchtern by Hanah. You know Hanah? Hanah and Schlüchtern, that was together. And my mother and father, they still lived there. My mother especially, she came from Schlüchtern. And she was there, and the terrible night was, she took us all in her arms and she said, you will not have to worry, I'm going to be here. But then she wasn't married yet, but she was our living mother. She was the one we knew from childhood on, from Wiesbaden. But my grandmother and all her sisters and brothers were killed in the Shoah.
They were all killed.
My own grandmother, her mother, from Schuster, she was killed too. Her brother was killed, 2 brothers and 3 sisters in the Shoah.
And they didn't leave Germany. They stayed, they never left Germany. Did they remain in Germany? They remained in Germany, they never left.
Yeah, 5 sisters survived from the camp. 2 brothers survived. This I know. But her mother was killed. Her mother was killed. She didn't survive the Shoah. She couldn't hear like me, and she was killed during the Shoah.
And what do you remember after the Kristallnacht? What do you remember?
My father got married.
Was it?
To
It's.
that is. No, that's my real mother. That's my original to this woman.
Yeah, and this
She
is.
has me around. This is my mother. This she got married to, second wife.
Yeah, this is the second wife.
Selma.
Selma, yeah.
She was a wonderful woman. Wonderful.
And can I ask, how did you?
Most wonderful. This is my original mother. Tikva. We called her Tikva. And Yehuda. From Wiesbaden.
And how did you leave Germany? How did you escape?
We were every Shabbos in Wiesbaden. Every Shabbos. In my grandmother's place. My grandmother was called. I think I'm called after her. Johanna. I will call Hanah. I am called Hanah. I'm still around. Everybody else is gone. Everybody. My husband. My grandmothers. Both my grandmothers. Take a chance. I put out all the names. You can take it off. These are all the people who perished in the Shoah. 12 people. Yeah. I had it made as a souvenir.
So I'm just going to read. Contribution by Hanah Weill in memory of 13 beloved family members lost in the Shoah. My grandmother, my mother's mother, Henrietta Ackerman, her daughters and their husbands, Bertha and Maya Max Levy, Emma and Willie Levy, Martha Holtzman, my stepmother's sisters and family, Ida and Julius Baum, Katie and Herman van der Walde, and 2 babies, my father-in-law, Arnold Weill.
Yeah, show it to you.
Okay.
It was our business, and I'm standing there with my father.
With your father?
No, with the
With your husband?
husband.
Okay.
I am at the corner.
Dental supplies, sure. And Hanah, can I ask, how did you, what do you remember after the Kristallnacht? What do you remember what happened afterwards?
14.
You were 14.
I think 13 or 14.
And do you remember being scared of the Germans? Do you remember?
Kristallnacht, I remember. And where all the family came from. Who was that? Show him this picture.
Yeah.
On the wall. The one on the wall.
Just, he saw it, yeah.
I've seen it, thank you. Yeah. But what do you remember? What do you remember of that terrible time?
I was in school, and I remember that my mother had a bad sickness, very bad. I don't like to talk about it. She had something very difficult.
I'm sorry, Hanah.
She had epilepsy. Epilepsy. But very bad. And that I remember the most.
I'm so sorry, Hanah.
She had it very bad. I remember.
Hanah, I'm sorry.
She's a global. But I forgot, Baruch Hashem, most of the tragical things. I forgot it. But I remember when she had it, how often she was on the floor.
And you were a small child.
I was 14 when she died.
Wow.
I never knew her well.
And I'm so sorry to hear. Sure.
It's a terrible disease. Very bad use. With a lot of sickness. And then 12 people died in the Shoah. Did you show?
Yeah. And Hanah, how did you manage to leave Germany?
I remember them all. Every one of them.
You remember them?
Very well. Very. I remember it was yesterday.
And Hanah, can I ask you, how did you leave Germany? How did you escape? How did you manage to leave Frankfurt?
I was all it on pictures. I remember everyone, especially my mother. And my husband, of course.
But Hanah, can I ask you, how did you leave? How did you manage to leave Frankfurt? How did you, do you remember leaving when you left Frankfurt?
I have a very good memory. and I lived through all the bad times. And I remember them very strongly. Her husband was still with us. He died much later.
And Hanah, from Frankfurt, where did you go?
From Frankfurt, we went to Israel first. We lived in Israel.
No, but during the war, during the war, after Kristallnacht, how did you manage to leave Frankfurt?
I had an aunt who lived in Boya Yeshiva, the other yeshiva, and she made an introduction to my second mother. My second mother was living near the yeshiva, and my aunt managed the dinner between my father and my mother. I remember this very well, very clearly. And my father married very quickly, 1.5 years after my mother died. He waited all the 5 Yontif days. He waited 1 year. But I remember it all. When he first met her, I was very excited with joy. I realized that he's going to get married again. I was very excited, and it worked out very well indeed. My mother was a lovely woman. The second time it's not so easy.
It's not so easy.
But my father managed extremely well with her. Extremely. She was a beautiful woman. Not only beautiful, but lovely. And she was in Kristallnacht with us, with all of us, children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews. She never left us for 1 minute. She stayed the whole night. And my father was there too. And then I realized how wonderful it would be if that woman would marry him. And he did. But my grandmother was killed. She couldn't hear. She was killed at the railway station. They shot her. There were 2 sons and 3 daughters. 5 daughters, 3 sons, who never made the Shoah before. They were finished before. I personally think the Shoah was the worst that ever happened in my life. For me, it was the worst. I remember it too clearly. But when my father got remarried, then it became easier for us. Much easier, because my mother was such a lovely woman. But before that, it was difficult, very difficult.
And what happened when the war started? When the war in 1939, when the war began? Do you remember when the war started? When Germany invaded Poland and the war began?
And the Shoah was on.
Do you remember anything from that time?
Every week somebody else passed away. That was the worst time. I always say, another Shoah, I would never survive. Never. I survived this one. That was enough. But I would be another one. I couldn't live.
And how long were you living in Frankfurt? Were you living in Frankfurt all the time?
All the time. In Frankfurt or Wiesbaden. We sometimes changed to my grandmother in Wiesbaden. You know where Wiesbaden is? Not far from Frankfurt.
Yeah. But when the war started, were you still living in Frankfurt?
In Frankfurt. And the war was and we lived in Frankfurt. Frankfurt. We got all the bad news to telephone. I don't know how that, in those days, we didn't have like what we have now. What do we have now?
With the cell phones and the telephones, we never had that, you know. Yeah. But how long did you stay in Frankfurt? Did you stay there during the war? During the Shoah, were you living in Frankfurt?
Yeah.
Were you hiding?
Right through it.
But how did you survive?
We survived in Wiesbaden with my second mother.
And you for how long did you stay in Wiesbaden? During the whole Shoah you were in Germany?
Kristallnacht. And then my parents got married.
After
I
Kristallnacht?
lived through all this. These were happy times. We lived very close together, the same street in Frankfurt. And these were very happy times when my father got remarried. We called it happy times.
But can I ask, Hanah, when the Shoah started, when the war started, you were in hiding in Frankfurt and Wiesbaden?
We were all together in one house. Grandparents, parents of my second mother, and her grandparents. I don't know, we were 18 people in one house. 18.
For how long? How long were you there?
My mother looked after all of them.
And for how long did you stay? How long were you there?
You know where I lived? In Fischstraße. You know what that is? You know where Durham Road was? Durham Road in Frankfurt. Did you know Frankfurt?
I've been in Frankfurt, I've been.
There is one big street called Durham Road, and that's where we lived. Durham Road. 222. I know the number still. 222 Durham Road.
Okay. But can I ask, how long did you stay in Germany during the war? During the Shoah?
How old?
No, how long, for how many years were you living in Frankfurt?
Not anymore.
When did you leave?
No, they're all gone.
And Hanah, when did you leave? When did you...
221 Durham Road. 221 Durham Road.
That was in England?
The house.
That was in England? From Germany, did you go to England?
In England. That was in England. We lived in England.
When did you go to England?
My father?
In what year? Do you remember the year that you went to England?
We always lived there. When he got married again, we always continued living in Durham Road.
So from Frankfurt you managed to go to England?
Frankfurt to England,
And in which town in England?
to Newcastle,
You went to Newcastle.
Newcastle Gateshead.
And what year did you come to England? Do you remember which year you came?
Camp.
What year?
I was not in camp.
No, but what year did you come to England? Was
My
it
mother and my father, they were there in Kristallnacht, but afterwards they were in Frankfurt, but also in their hometown, Wiesbaden, and my mother in Schlüchtern.
Hanah, when did you go to England? When did you leave Germany? What happened after Kristallnacht? Did you leave to Germany
Kristallnacht.
afterwards?
No, we were there Kristallnacht.
I know, but then, where did you go? You didn't go to the camp,
England.
to England, with your father and your new mother?
My new mother and my father.
So you left
To England.
after Kristallnacht, you escaped to England.
I had everything, all the love of my mother and father.
I know. And you all left together to England? You left Germany? You ran away because there was a war?
To England.
To England, right. Do you remember in which year that was?
I think it was 14. I was 14 years old when we came to England.
Just after Kristallnacht, you
just
escaped.
after Kristallnacht?
I think
It was
probably.
just after Kristallnacht. So after Kristallnacht you came to England and you came to Newcastle.
In England, we moved a few times our addresses, but I know them all. Durham Road, Gateshead, Yeshiva is. I remember them all.
And you went with your sister, your sister who's a year older than you?
Was Gretel there? Gretel was there also? In England? Did you move to England with your father and your mother and Gretel, your sister, all together to England?
No, my father married again when we came to England.
Okay.
Died away
And your sister was with you?
because my mother had died. He remarried. He had to because of us, my sister and me. We were too young to be.
So did your sister come also to England, to Durham
sister.
Road? Your sister lived together with
Before
you?
me.
Your sister is
She was
older.
already going out with her husband.
She was dating her husband. Oh la la.
It was very early. She was out with him. She got married at 18.
Oh wow.
And my father had to sign the marriage agreement. That was not so easy.
In Newcastle, in England?
Also in Newcastle, but very short in Newcastle. I was the one who lived so long in Newcastle. I lived a long time in Newcastle.
And Hanah, have you ever been back to Germany? Did you ever go back to Germany to visit?
I had to go back with my new mother, but I wouldn't go back anymore now. Is that what you wanted to do?
Did you ever go back?
On business with my father, I did go back a couple of times
Was it difficult? Was it very difficult to go back?
to Germany. It wasn't easy for me. It was very difficult. It reminded me of all the mishpacha that did not come out. It was not easy. But we had still a good life. When my parents were there, we still had a good life. But then when my mother died, my father had to get married again. It was too difficult for us to.
And Hanah, here's a beautiful picture of you and your husband. And how many years were you married?
How old was I?
How many years were you married? Hanah.
50.
63 years.
63 years. And where was your husband born?
Show me how old was I when they got remarried.
Got remarried? No. You
Was before
were
your
together 63 years.
63 years.
Yeah. And he was born in Frankfurt, no?
Also.
Your husband- Your husband comes from Cologne. From Cologne.
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 Yeah.
My husband was from Cologne.
And you met him in
You know Cologne.
I've been in Cologne.
You've been there.
And your husband you met
Beautiful city, which I considered much more beautiful than Frankfurt. Maybe because I had so much trouble in Frankfurt. But I know all the addresses in Frankfurt. We lived in 5 different locations. I know.
and your husband he also managed to go to England. He escaped to England.
My husband was still in business.
Okay, so Hanah, I just want to thank you. 1 minute. Hanah, I just want to thank you so much. Hanah, I want to thank you very, very much, Hanah. So I just want to thank you so much.
It's about 20,
Okay,
25
I'll
minutes.
be a minute.
Do you want to carry on afterwards?
Hanah, I just want to thank you very, very much. I'm so grateful to you, and it's been such an honor and a privilege to be with you. And you should just have mazel, bracha.
And see me. Say hello to me.
I will.
See how I'm getting on.
For sure. Well, Hanah, you are amazing. You should just have gesund, mazel and bracha at Mevesrim, and really thank you so, so much.
Must I have some help?
You should have gesund. You should be well, and have Hashem's blessings, and only mazel and bracha. And thank you very, very much, Hanah. Thank you so much. And Hanah, can I just ask you, is there any message?
If you want to know a little bit more, come again.
Okay. Hanah, thank you so much.
What's your message?
Hanah, what message can you give to the future
See
generations?
what I looked like. Now I look old, very old. And I was once.
You were very. You're still pretty.
You're still very pretty, Hanah. You're beautiful. You're very beautiful.
I was once pretty.
You're very pretty, Hanah.
No.
You're beautiful. You're very beautiful.
My husband always said that.
You had a good taste.
You had a good marriage, Hanah. You had a good marriage, and you had a very special husband. And here's such a beautiful picture of you and your
On my
husband.
80s.
And this is last year. Look at this. Look at
That
this.
was
Want to see it?
later.
Yeah, want to see this picture? That's last year.
95.
It's beautiful. And Hanah, you're still very beautiful. You're very beautiful, and you're an
My
inspiration.
doctor
Hanah.
likes that picture the best.
You like this
Yes, it is.
beautiful picture?
You know where he put it? Dr. Mann in his drawer and locked it.
And Hanah, you always remained religious. You always believed in Hashem, and you always remained religious.
Oh yes. Hanah davens all the time. Look at this. She davens Shachas, Mincha and Ma'ariv. Hanah goes to shul. She used to take her husband to shul 3 times a day. Remember? Hanah. And she even built a shul in Beit Belev in his name. And then here she's got all the tefillot in large letters, and she davens 3 times a day.
That's amazing.
And she says Tehillim, and she gives tzedakah. She never lost her faith.
If you can come, just, that's very
I
nice.
love her.
Yeah.
I love her.
Well, Tibi, I just want to thank you so much for introducing me, and you have a very special friend, and you're both very
Is she
special.
your sister?
We're very close friends with Tibi's husband.
What are you?
Friends, good friends.
She's the nicest woman I've ever met.
Well, it's true. And I'm so grateful to you, Tibi, for introducing me. And thank you
Okay.
very much. And you should just continue.
Wonderful to me. Wonderful.
Thank you, Hanah. Thank you.
I love